breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Warmer brother hello, welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got a great podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by Curtis Rogers. He does great work over at 710 Seattle Sports as he does the pre- and post-game hosting for the Seattle Mariners. Top of that, if you just are out there in the Seattle/Pacific Northwest area, he does a great job covering all the local teams, but we're going to talk with him about what we've all seen out of the Seattle Mariners thus far this season, the landscape of the AL West as well, and I know that the Mariners have been dealing with a few injuries. They've been dealing with some offensive inconsistencies, so get a little bit of insight there in the final segment. Going to give you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this MLB Thursday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter timeline at @unit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM. Naming does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you are able to find your own whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast. That 5-star review. Really did not get in any Twitter questions today, but we've got a few games from Tuesday night to clean up, and we had a nice day of baseball on Wednesday. So let's take a look back at it, try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The Miami Marlins won on Tuesday by a count of 6-2, and then on Wednesday, they were able to get the job done by a count of 5-4. In the Tuesday game, you saw Jorge Soler get a pair of home runs off of Brandon Pfaadt for home runs number 8 and 9 of the season, and Jesus Luzardo was incredible, giving up 1 run over the course of 6 innings. Oscar Brazoba and Dylan Floro both provided scoreless inning, and the Arizona Diamondbacks were able to get a solo home run off of Matt Barnes as Evan Longoria got his 4th home run season, but for Pfaadt, gives up 6 runs over the course of 5 innings, including a pair of home runs. Probably got called up to the big leagues a little bit early as Kevin Ginkel, Scott McGough, they were able to provide a combined 4 scoreless innings. And then for the game on Wednesday, the 5-4 winner, most of the runs came in the 4th inning as Arizona got all 4 of their runs in the 4th inning, but the Miami Marlins, they were able to get a home run off the bat of Jesus Sanchez in his 3rd home run season. As for Merrill Kelly, it was a little bit of a rough go of it for him, giving up 4 runs in 6 innings, including that home run. Then Andrew Chafin, he acts up a run late in this game as he gives up a run in an inning. Kyle Nelson, Miguel Castro, they both provided a scoreless inning, but for the Arizona Diamondbacks, they go just 1 of 7 with men in scoring position, and after getting to Edward Cabrera, who just continues to be so inconsistent. 4 walks in 3 1/3 innings, allowing 4 runs. The bullpen did their part for the Miami Marlins as from there they go 17 outs without giving up a run. Brian Hoying, Tanner Scott combined for 2 scoreless innings. Oscar Brazoba, Steven Okert, they combined for 5 outs out of the bullpen, and then Dylan Floro, AJ Puck, scoreless 8th and 9th innings to be able to get it done for the Miami Marlins. We saw the San Francisco Giants get a 4-1 win on Tuesday and then get destroyed on Wednesday. As for the game on Tuesday, Logan Webb was able to just have the Washington Nationals offense in that web, giving up 1 run over the course of 7 innings. Now, the Nationals were able to get 9 hits in this one. They went 1 of 12 with men in scoring position, and that in support of the turkey tosser Patrick Corbin, who gave up 3 runs, 2 of which were earned in 6 innings, giving up a home run to a little bit of a young gun, as it was home run number 1 of the season for shortstop Casey Schmidt. From there, you saw for the Nationals, Mason Thompson and Hobie Harris come in for an inning apiece. Thompson did allow a run in his inning of work. Meanwhile, for the Giants, you had Tyler Rogers, Camilo Udavall be able to lend a scoreless inning. And then for the game on Wednesday, it was just all about the Washington Nationals trying to repay Josiah Gray for the runs that they have not been providing from early on during the season. 11-6. The Nationals get it done. As for Gray, he gets the 3rd win of the season, giving up 2 runs in 7 innings. You did see Thaddeus Ward along with Erasmo Ramirez both give up 2 runs in their 1 inning of work. As for the Giants, they got a pair of home runs. Michael Conforto, 5th home run season. Lamonte Wade Jr. is 7th. But Sean Manaea is right now looking just completely terrible out there. 8 runs, 4 of which were earned, given up in 2 2/3 innings, including a home run. You had from there, Tristan Beck now looked so bad. 2 runs surrendered and 5 innings as he gave up a home run along the way before you have a run in that inning given up by Cole Waitis. As for the Washington Nationals, going deep for them, Lane Thomas, 4th home run season, and it was home run number 1 of the season for Riley Adams. So Nationals able to get a nice win out there. You saw for the Houston Astros a pair of wins on both Tuesday and Wednesday, and hey, that Wednesday win was our DK Nation write-up pick. On Tuesday, it was 3-1 that they got it done as Martin Maldonado went deep off of Shohei Ohtani, second home run season for Ohtani. Gives up that home run, 3 runs in total over the course of 7 innings before Andrew Wands cleans up 2 innings scoreless. Zach Neto was the lone form of offense for the LA Angels on Tuesday, getting his first home run season off of Framber Valdez. Valdez gives up that 1 solo run in 8 innings, punches out 12, and then Ryan Presley 2 punch-outs as he's able to clean up the 9th inning scoreless. Presley would not keep the 9th inning scoreless on Wednesday and made us sweat, but the Astros got it done by a count of 5-4 for Presley. He gave up a home run to Shohei Ohtani, 2 runs in total in that 9th inning as Ohtani gets home run number 8 of the season, and early on in the game, Hunter Renfroe got his 10th home run of the campaign off of Christian Javier, and that's all Javier would give up, giving up 2 runs over the course of 6 innings, punched out 11. Hector Neris, Brian Abreu both led to scoreless inning, and for the Houston Astros, Yordan Alvarez took Griffin Canning deep for his 8th home run of the season. For Canning, things just completely unraveled for him in the 4th inning. Gives up a 4 spot in that inning. He goes 3 2/3 innings, giving up 5 runs, all of which were earned. There was an error out there, and it was on his own throwing error as it was in a pickoff attempt, and that's when things really went down the toilet bowl. For the Angels, by the way, 5 1/3 innings of scoreless baseball out of the bullpen. Chris Savinsky, 2 scoreless innings. Jimmy Erget, 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Ryan Tepera, Tucker Davidson, they both landed scoreless inning, but Astros able to get it done, and now they are back to being above 500 and where you'd expect them to be. You saw the Texas Rangers and Seattle Mariners split their last 2 games of their series as the Seattle Mariners got it done on Tuesday by kind of 5-0 as Andrew Heaney had no support around him and really didn't pitch that good. Gave up 4 runs, 3 of which were earned at 6 2/3 innings, including a home run to Tom Murphy, home run number 1 of the season. George Kirby on the flip side, 7 scoreless innings before you have Justin Topa and Juan Then both lend a scoreless inning. And for the Rangers, you did have Ian Kennedy give up 1 run in 1 1/3 innings, and then turning it forward to Wednesday, 4-3, the Texas Rangers got it done as Dane Dunning, he got her done and giving up 2 runs over the course of 6 innings. Josh Saboris, Will Smith get jiggy with it with a pair of scoreless innings. Brock Burke gives up a run in 2/3 of an inning, and Jonathan Hernandez was able to get an out of the bullpen. But Marcus Semien, he went deep off of Luis Castillo for his 6th home run season as Castillo allows 3 runs over the course of 5 innings. Matt Bryce should give up a run in 2/3 of an inning, and Gabe Spire was able to give an out of the bullpen. And then Chris Flex, and Paul Sewald all deliver a scoreless inning, but not a lot of offense for the Seattle Mariners, and that doomed them. And then in terms of more of these standalone games that we saw on Wednesday, the Baltimore Orioles, they get 2 straight from the Tampa Bay Rays, 2-1. They're able to get it done as Yoni Chirinos was a bulk guy after Jalen Beeks was able to lend 2 scoreless innings, gave up 2 runs over the course of 5 innings, and then Javi Guerra a scoreless inning. But the Rays, they just ran cold with their offense once again, going 1 of 8 with men in scoring position. As for Baltimore, Dean Kramer, he was terrific. 6 scoreless innings. Austin Voth does allow a run out of the bullpen in 1 1/3 innings. Andy Colombi, pair of outs out of the bullpen, and Yennier Cano. Don't you know this guy has been tremendous? Another scoreless outing as he has now went 18 2/3 innings. He has not allowed a single run all season long. So the Baltimore Orioles now 24-13 and still trailing in that division. The Blue Jays are trailing in the American League East as well. They lose to the Philadelphia Phillies by a count of 2-1. Kevin Gausman, a good start that completely went to waste. He had 9 strikeouts and 0 walks in 6 scoreless innings. Yimi Garcia, Eric Swanson both provided scoreless inning, and then Jordan Romano, he's unable to hold it down in the 9th inning, gives up a run. Then Tim Mesa allows an unearned run in the 10th inning. The team was hurt by a Bo Bichette throwing error as well, but for the Blue Jays, 0 of 9 with men in scoring position. Lone run in this game for them came off the bat of Brandon Belt. 2nd home run season off of Zach Whelan and Dylan Wheeler, which he was wheeling and he was dealing, giving up that 1 run in 7 innings. From there, Craig Kimbrell, Sir Anthony Dominguez, Gregory Soto all lend a scoreless inning for the Philadelphia Phillies to get back to 18-19 out in the AL East. You saw the Yankees just lambaste the Oakland A's, who are now 8-30, by the way. I mean, they always say that the worst baseball teams get 60 wins. The best baseball teams, they lose 60 games. I don't think that the Oakland A's are coming anywhere close to 60 wins at this point. 11-3 the final. Kyle Mueller gets completely just ran out of the building in this one. 6 runs surrendered over the course of 4 innings as he allows a home run to one Harrison Bader, his 3rd home run season. Then Anthony Volpe gets his 4th home run campaign. DJ Turner and El Plamayu gets his 5th as those both come off of Rico Garcia. And he looked like Uncle Rico in this one. Gave up 5 runs and he provided 2 outs, giving up those 2 home runs. Shintaro Fujinami, 2 1/3 innings, scoreless, and then Richard Lovelady, a scoreless inning, but too little too late. And for the A's, they got 3 solo home runs. J.J. Blade gets his 3rd home run in the campaign. Jace Peterson, great name, 2nd home run season. Then it was home run number 2 of the campaign for Carlos Perez. As for the Yankees, Johnny Brito gave up 2 of those 3 home runs, going 4 1/3 innings, giving up 2 runs. And then you did have 1 run surrendered in 3 innings from Davy Garcia. You also had Jimmy Cordero come in, giving up nothing in his 5 outs out of the bullpen. The Colorado Rockies, they go to Pittsburgh and they get it done by a count of 4-3. Good news is the Pirates were able to score more than 2 runs for the first time in 8 games. Bad news is they still only scored 3, as for Colorado, Antonio Sensatello, not long for this game, gives up 3 runs over the course of 2 2/3 innings as he was taken deep twice. Topico Marcano was able to get his 1st home run season, and Andrew McCutchen, 7th home run season for Rich Hill. He was not long for this game either. Gives up 3 runs, 1 of which was earned in 3 2/3 innings. And then from there, both bullpens did a solid job. Colin Olderman, David Benar, a scoreless inning. You had Robert Stevenson give up a run in his inning, but Jose Hernandez and out of the bullpen. Dodi Barreta for the Pittsburgh Pirates, 2 scoreless innings. But for the Colorado Rockies, you had Peter Lambert come in, give 2 1/3 innings scoreless. Daniel Bard, Brad Hand, combined for 2 scoreless innings. And then Pierce Johnson, Justin Lawrence, they both led scoreless innings. So the Colorado Rockies able to get another win. The LA Dodgers just completely took it to the Milwaukee Brewers, 8-1 the final, as the LA Dodgers don't look now, but they're now 23-15 after a little bit of a rough start to the season. These guys are back, and they're back in full force as they got a trio of home runs as Miguel Vargas gets his 4th home run season, and Will Smith gets jiggy with it, along with Freddie Freeman. They both get their 6th home runs of the season as Wade Miley gave up all 3 of those home runs. 7 runs in total over the course of 5 innings. It was not a party in the USA, and it certainly was not a party in Milwaukee. Colin Rea from there gives up a run in 2/3 of an inning. Joel Payamps, 1 1/3 inning scoreless before Hobie Miller, Devin Williams, both led a scoreless inning. And lone form of offense for the Brewers, William Contreras gets his 3rd home run of the season as Clayton Kershaw was stealing. Gives up that 1 run over the course of 7 innings before Wander, I swear, oh, this guy sucks. Did not suck. 2 scoreless innings. He sucks against everyone except for the Milwaukee Brewers. Go figure there, as you also had the Detroit Tigers take down the Cleveland Guardians 5-0. Guardians, by the way, you've had with them thus far this season 12 overs, 24 unders at a push. They are your top under team in all baseball thus far this season. As for Detroit, you didn't have any home runs, but they went 4 of 10 with men in scoring position. And Eduardo Rodriguez, another really good start. He has now allowed 2 runs across his last 6 starts, 7 scoreless innings. Jason Foley, Jason Shreve, they both led a scoreless inning. And for Cleveland, Peyton Battenfield, well, he was not batting down the hatches. 5 runs, 4 of which were earned, surrendered in 6 innings. Aniel de los Santos, Nick Sandlin, Eli Morgan all led a scoreless inning from there. But nothing doing for Cleveland. A whole heck of a lot doing for the New York Mets pitching, as they are able to take down the Cincinnati Reds by a count of 2-1. Very good start from Justin Verlander. He gives up just 1 run over the course of 7 innings. And Pete Alonso, main form of offense for the New York Mets. He gets home run number 13 of the campaign. That comes off of Hunter Green. As Green, he allows 2 runs over the course of 5 1/3 innings. And for the Mets, they probably should have gotten more than 2 runs considering they got 10 hits in this game. But the bullpen of the Cincinnati Reds did their part, as you had Alex Young, Casey Lugumina combined for a scoreless inning. Ian Gabot, 1 2/3 inning scoreless. Buck Farmer, a scoreless inning as well. But for the New York Mets, you had Adam Ottavino come in. He was able to do a nice job of shutting the door for the New York Mets, so they are able to get that one done. Doing this as this game is going final, but we've currently got the Chicago Cubs up by a count of 6-2 on the St. Louis Cardinals, doing this a little bit early because of Greg Peterson experience. That is out from midnight to 3 Eastern time, but for Jordan Montgomery, he has just been getting completely smoked in this one, giving up 2 home runs, 6 runs in total over the course of 5 innings, as Yan Gomes and Patrick Wisdom took him deep. Wisdom, 12th home run season, Gomes his 6th, Justin Steele thus far has given up 2 runs over the course of 5+ innings, so we shall see what happens there, but it does look like the Cubs are going to be able to bounce back after a few losses. The Boston Red Sox, they were able to get the job done against the Atlanta Braves by a count of 5-2, as the Braves' bullpen game honestly wasn't going too bad until Rossi Iglesias came into the game. Dylan Lee, he was pretty much the opener, 2 2/3 innings, scoreless. Colin McHugh gives up 2 runs over the course of 1 1/3 innings, and then you have a pair of guys in Jesse Chavez and Young come in for a scoreless inning. AJ Minter, though, got into a little bit of problems. He gave up a run in 1/3 of an inning before Nick Anderson got 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and then Rossi Iglesias gives up a home run, 2 runs in total, 2/3 of an inning before Joe Jimenez has to get the last out for the team. As going deep, Tristan Casas, 5th home run season, as Brian Bale, 2 runs, both of which were earned, given up in 6 innings out of him. As going deep for Atlanta, Ronald Acuna Jr., 7th home run season, but giving up 2 runs against the Braves, that's pretty darn solid, as Chris Martin, Kenley Jansen, Josh Winkowski were all able to end a scoreless inning for the Red Sox to extend to 22-16, and a rare under for the Red Sox as well, as they've really been your top over team in all baseball thus far this season, as they've got 25 overs, 12 unders, and a push. Ironically enough, your second best over team is the Oakland A's right now, playing 66.6% of their games to the over thus far. You saw the Kansas City Royals just take it to the Chicago White Sox 9-1, as it has been a really sad season for the White Sox now. 13-25. Lance Lynn gets lit up again. He's up to a 7.51 ERA. So he gives up a pair of home runs, as taking him deep. Nick Pratto, 2nd home run season. Michael Massey, he gets his first, and then Ed Olivares, he was able to get a home run later on in the game, his 3rd of the campaign. That comes off of Nick Padilla. He gives up 2 runs over the course of his 2 innings. Lance Lynn, 7 runs surrendered in 5 innings before Keenan Middleton, one of the few guys doing his job for the Chicago White Sox, was able to end a scoreless inning. And for the Royals, Brian Keller gave up 4 walks in 5 innings, but only gave up 1 run, and from there, a bottom 5 bullpen in the big leagues in terms of ERA got the job done. Amir Garrett, Josh Shamon, Taylor Clark, Jose Cuas, they all end a scoreless inning. You did see the San Diego Padres and Minnesota Twins have to go to extra innings, as well, as I am doing this as the game is going to be going into an 11th inning, with Josh Hader just being now used up by the San Diego Padres in the 10th inning, as he allowed a run in that inning, as it is currently 3-3 for the San Diego Padres. Juan Soto was able to go deep, 6th home run season. That comes off of Pablo Lopez, who gave up just that 1 run in 6 1/3 innings. Brock Stewart, he got a pair of outs out of the bullpen before Orde Lopez gives up a run in an inning. Yohan Duran has went 2 scoreless, and both of these teams have been having their struggles driving men in. So we shall see how that game turns out, and it's been a very interesting start to the season in general. In terms of baseball, lots of overs very early on, but things have really ironed out as I sit here right now with that Padres versus Twins game in the balance. 267 overs to 267 unders. 50-50 on the nose. So bookmakers doing their part there, I will say. Favorites have been relatively solid on the money line. 321 and 231 for a 58.2% hit rate, but if you're looking at favorites on the run line, we have now seen a grand total of 82 be unable to cover the run line, and if you're taking a look at the last 7 days, it's been a dog day at the park. Favorites 43 and 48 on the money line, hitting at just 47.3%. So, yeah, if you've been taking the underdogs, it's been going very well for you. And favorites on the run line, you've seen just 29 be able to cover. So 14 of those teams that have won outright on the money line have failed to be able to cover the -1.5. Meanwhile, unders in the last 7 days have been relatively solid as well. 46 unders to 43 overs with 2 pushes along the way. That's what we're seeing in Major League Baseball right now, and that's what we all got on late Tuesday into Wednesday. And coming up next, we're going to be talking some American League East. We're going to be talking about the Seattle Mariners and so much more with Curtis Rogers, who does great work at 710 Seattle Sports. He joins me next right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSiN Family Podcast.
Are you ready to become a winning sports bettor? Schedule a call with SBIA to find out how their service can make you a long-term winning player. They've developed an innovative algorithm that maximizes units returned, and they are so confident in their system that they offer a money-back guarantee. Sign up by October 31st and get their MBA package at no cost until they reach 10 net units. They treat sports betting like a business. So if you want to learn how to make your sports betting dreams a reality, visit them at SBIA1.com and check them out on social media at SBIA Sports.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball, this is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the Beast and Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man. It's Curtis Rogers. Does tremendous work over at 710 Seattle Sports. He is the Seattle Mariners pre- and post-game host. On top of that, he does great work with so many of the afternoon shows that you do hear on 710 Seattle Sports. He does the Seattle Sports Night, Seattle Sports Saturday podcast. I know that he has been trying to track a little bit of everything between Gonzaga, what they've done in the offseason in college basketball, the Seattle Kraken and their NHL playoff run. You had the Seattle Seahawks have their draft a few weeks ago, so this man has been very busy, but does a great job of juggling it all, and you're able to follow him on Twitter and Instagram at A Kid From Ken. And Curtis, it's always great to have you aboard. Thank you.
Greg, always enjoy getting the call from you and always making time for you, because this is one of my favorite parts of doing what I do is hopping on with you. And yeah, it has been a whirlwind up here in the great Northwest, but Mariners baseball at the forefront of it. You mentioned all the other things going on right now, but yeah, the Mariners having a tougher time of it here in the early goings of the season, but it's definitely made for some very interesting storylines.
And it does feel a little bit reminiscent of last year as well, because I think that a lot of people forget with the run that the Seattle Mariners had towards the second part of the season, they were right around 500 when it came to the middle of May last season as well. And what have you all noticed from the Mariners? Because, I mean, it feels like that great pitching that the Mariners typically have, it's been there once again, but what really plagued them last season as they were able to get into the postseason despite it was just inconsistency at the plate. And right now the Seattle Mariners, once again, much like last year, do find themselves in the bottom five in terms of batting average.
Yeah, the inconsistency at the plate has been their biggest hiccup this season. They've been chasing a lot more than they have been really in any sort of season in the last couple of years. Walks are down, strikeouts are up, and that's not a winning formula with the bats. And you look at the Mariners pitching staff, in terms of Fangraphs WAR, it's the best in baseball. So when you have a pitching staff as good as the Mariners, you kind of expect to be at least a winning ball club this late into the season. I mean, we're 37 games in here in Seattle, so they've got a plus 14 run differential. It's not like they are getting blown out in all these games or anything, but it feels like their luck has kind of reverted back to the mean a little bit. Last couple of years, they've been the best team in baseball in one-run games. They've had plenty of comeback wins, but that just hasn't been the case this season. They're 4-11 in one-run games to start this season, kind of the exact opposite of the Miami Marlins, who I believe won like 13 in a row in terms of one-run games. So you look at the Mariners right now, kind of the things that made them what they were in 2022 and 2021 hasn't been the case so far here in 2023.
And how much do you think that they are sort of paying the toll for what happened the last few years? Because I still remember that epic 2021 season where they very nearly made the playoffs with like a negative 50 run differential, because you mentioned it, they were just incredible in one-run games. And you're going to be better in one-run games, in my opinion, when you've got a good bullpen, and the Seattle Mariners have been one of the best in the league with that regard. But how much do you think that this is just a little bit of payback from what we saw the last two seasons?
It's very possible. You know, winning those kinds of games, those kinds of close one-run games, come from behind victories, it's very tough to replicate year in and year out. Now, I do think the Mariners enjoy being in that scenario. They kind of enjoy being in those close games because they know they have a chance to win at the very end, but it is so hard to do that year in and year out. It is such a fine line to walk every single time when you're in that scenario. You can't really be surprised when a game that close doesn't go your way, but to see it kind of go the polar opposite from what they were last season and the year before that, I think it's been a really tough thing for Mariners fans to kind of wrap their heads around here in the season's first month and a half, because for Wednesday, as an example, it was a one-run game against the Texas Rangers. They lose that one in that series against Texas. They only allow 6 runs over the 3 games and drop 2 of 3. That's not fun. But now you look at the bigger picture. They're 7-3 in their last 10. They just had a 9-game stretch against all AL West opponents. They went 6-3 on that, so it wasn't all bad. But getting over that hump of 500, pushing that boulder up the hill and getting it to stay has been the toughest thing for the Mariners right now. And you wonder if they're going to be able to do it on this road trip. They got the Tigers coming up for 3 starting on Friday. You've got the Red Sox, who have a winning record this season, and then you've also got a really tough one against the Atlanta Braves, who will have the best record in the National League right now. So it's going to be a very tough go of it here over the next week and a half for the Mariners. But there are signs, with the pitching staff being the biggest sign as to the Mariners having success this season. And if they can continue with those four guys at the top of the rotation, Luis Castillo, George Kirby, Logan Gilbert, and now Bryce Miller added to that, I think that can be a really, really formidable pitching staff that can lift them in games where their offense just isn't showing up.
And how much are you concerned about some of the injuries to the entire rotation that we've seen with the Seattle Mariners? Because as we know, Robbie Ray has pitched as many innings as myself thus far this season. Ben Murphy is now on the injured list. Andres Munoz, who's really been one of the best relievers, has been now put on the injured list as well. And I take a look at the bullpen, and they've gotten some very unexpected production out of guys like Justin Topa, Trevor Gott. I believe that they're giving innings to a guy by the name of Juan Then. And, I mean, these guys have all been able to really just do an amazing job. I just wonder how sustainable it might be for someone like a Taylor Saucedo to continue his 0 ERA.
Yeah, another guy thrown in there, too, is Gabe Spire, who came up right after Robbie Ray got injured. He's running a .63 ERA in 14 1/3 innings pitched. But you mentioned that rash of injuries. We've talked about how the Mariners' luck in one-run games this season has not gone the way that Mariners fans have kind of become used to. Well, last year, the health of the rotation was so absurdly good. Every single one of their starting pitchers made their scheduled starts last season. There was not a pitcher that needed time off because of injury, that needed time off because of extra rest or anything like that. Every single one of them made every single start. Now, there were some doubleheaders in there where they needed a guy to bring up from AAA to start the second half of that doubleheader. So there were a couple random starts thrown in there, but they didn't lose a single game to injury last year out of their starting rotation. Obviously, you've lost, I think, about 162 games to injury this season with Robbie Ray, obviously, going on the injured list, getting Tommy John surgery. But I think the biggest thing in terms of injured Mariners right now would be Andres Munoz, whether or not he is going to be coming back anytime soon. Scott Service gave some injury updates on Tuesday of this week, and it sounds like Munoz might not be ready to go until June, and that is going to be a huge loss because if you recall, in the playoffs last year, Munoz was the Mariners' highest leverage guy. He was the guy that they were bringing in no matter the situation, no matter the inning. He was there to get some big outs for them. Had varying levels of success in the postseason. We all remember the home run he gave up to Alex Bregman in Game 1 of the American League Division Series that then set the table for Yordan Alvarez's go-ahead home run, his game-winning home run to finish that game off. But Munoz is so important to what the Mariners bullpen does. But look, they have been able to get a lot of good innings out of their bullpen from guys, as you mentioned, Greg, Trevor Gott, Justin Topa, just guys who are not anybody that anybody would really pay attention to most years. But look, those guys have been pitching in higher leverage situations and they've been delivering so far. And I think the Mariners have confidence in them right now to kind of weather that storm until, somebody like Munoz can come back and contribute. And then 110 you bring up too. I mean, that's an interesting one. He's only pitched, I believe, like 66 innings in the minors. He's had a really interesting career in the minors. He was a Mariners farmhand, then traded to the Yankees and traded back to the Mariners in all sorts of interesting trades. I think Edwin Encarnacion was the guy who he got traded for. So bringing him up, hey, look, who else can pitch some big innings for this team as they kind of wait for Andres Munoz to turn the corner in his recovery. But I don't know when that day is going to come because it just sounds like the injuries are piling up right now for this pitching staff, but they've been able to be competitive still.
It's a long and winding road when you were a part of a trade that involved Edwin Encarnacion. So, yeah, there's been a lot of intrigue there. And there's been a lot of intrigue in the entire AL West. Is joining me on the podcast, we've got Curtis Rogers. He does great work over at 710 Seattle Sports because, really everyone that is of any sort of competition in the AL West has been able to pitch relatively well in the bullpen. I was very surprised to see that the LA Angels are currently in the top 7 in terms of bullpen ERA. Now, both of us covering baseball know that this is not going to be the case when it comes to October. But that said, thus far, they've been able to do an okay job. The Texas Rangers, they've gotten off to a nice start. As we know, the Houston Astros, even though they've been a little bit cold, that they're going to pick it up. what have you made just out of the entirety of this division? Because the more that I look at the Rangers, the more that I think that they're going to stay in. When I take a look at the 4 top teams in the American League West, the Oakland A's, who are soon going to be the Las Vegas Rays, apparently playing at the Tropicana, I don't think that they are worth mentioning at this point because they just don't pay enough money to be mentioned on this show. But that said, well, in terms of the top 4 teams, the one team that I think is going to fall off is the LA Angels, because I do think that pitching is going to regress once again, and they just once again have 2 amazing players, Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani, that don't have a lot of help around them.
Yeah, looking at this AL West race, I think the Rangers are for real. Second best run differential in all of baseball, plus 82. They're 22-14. They picked up a game on the Mariners this week by taking 2 of 3 from them. I think the Rangers are going to be a very formidable team in the AL West this season, making it, I think, at least a 2-horse race between them and Houston. I think the Mariners can still get back into it. They're just 4.5 back of Texas right now, so it's not like they're waving goodbye to anybody at this point. But I think the Rangers are a team that's going to be a very good team this year, and they're doing what they're doing right now largely without Corey Seager, who was one of the best bats in all of baseball through the season's first couple weeks, but he has been out for nearly a month now, so we're waiting to see what he will be once he returns from the injured list. But, I mean, you look at this Rangers lineup, Marcus Semien now delivering on what he was when they signed him to that big contract last year. Adolis Garcia, 9 home runs, 36 runs driven in, an OPS of 809. He's been a fun player to watch this season. And then Jonah Heim, how about his production behind the plate? A 937 OPS, one of the best offensive catchers in the game right now. And I think it's shown flashes over the last couple of years, but I don't know if anybody expected him to get off to the kind of start to the season that he's gotten off to. So he's been a really big bat, really big, important piece to what they're doing in Texas. I think the biggest question mark for them, though, is going to be what do they do with Jacob deGrom's spot in the rotation? Now, when he's healthy, he has been very good. His 30 innings pitched, 45 strikeouts already, an ERA sub-3. Dane Dunning had a really good start today against the Mariners, so maybe that's somebody that can kind of take deGrom's spot in the rotation until he comes back. But you look at the other guys in that rotation, Nathan Eovaldi, that to me was a very under-the-radar signing this offseason. I've really liked his stuff in his career. Strikes out a ton of guys, and he has really been everything that they could have hoped for. John Gray, a very dependable guy. Not going to wow you by any stretch of the imagination, but he'll give you some quality starts. And then Martin Perez coming off a career year last year, kind of duplicating what he did a year ago. So Texas is obviously kind of new to the scene for a lot of people, just kind of catching up to speed on the 2023 season, but they don't have many holes on their roster right now, and I think that's a team that is going to be very competitive this year in the American League West.
I do think so as well. I take a look at this American League West, and I still can't count out the Houston Astros because you know that Jose Altuve is going to be getting back in the fold, along with Michael Brantley, and this pitching has still been really good, but I do think that the entirety of the AL West going to be interesting. And, hey, the Texas Rangers this weekend, they get the Oakland A's. So I guess the Oakland A's are going to get a little bit of mention because they're probably going to be getting lambasted this weekend as well. As joining me on the podcast, we do have Curtis Rogers. He does great work over at 710 Seattle Sports. And then just in terms of the landscape of Major League Baseball, have there been teams outside of the American League West that have caught your fancy, whether it be a team that has been surprising in a very good way or a team that you had high expectations for and they've just simply flopped this far?
Well, one team that I think has exceeded my expectations early on in the season is the Baltimore Orioles. Now, I thought they were going to be a good team this season, but they are in second place right now in a very tough American League East. Everybody has a record above 500, and that Orioles team just has so many waves of talent coming up to the major league level. We all know Adley Rutschman, how great he has been. But also you've got Gunnar Henderson, who has gotten off to a slow start but still has all the talent in the world. Grayson Rodriguez, who is a very exciting player on that roster. I wonder, though, how their starting pitching is going to hold up because their offense has really been carrying the load for them, as a lot of their starting pitchers right now have pretty high ERAs. Tyler Wells is the lowest right now at 3.15, but Kyle Gibson's up over 4. Dean Kramer's up over 5, same with Grayson Rodriguez. This is going to be a fun team to watch over the next couple of years as they continue to graduate more and more players to the big league level. And look, I mean, Jackson Holliday is kind of the next guy in their pipeline. Heston Scherstad's another guy, too, that's coming up. And how about about Yennier Cano coming out of their bullpen this season? That's a name that I frankly never heard of prior to this season, but 17 and 2/3 innings pitched for him, 3 hits allowed, no runs, no walks, 21 strikeouts. That is an incredible stat line, one that I don't think is getting talked about enough across Major League Baseball. That is somebody who has been really fun to watch coming out of the Orioles bullpen this season. And then in terms of a team that is just kind of left a little bit to be desired, I think the San Diego Padres, for me, are that team. They have a winning record right now, 19-17, but guys like Juan Soto, guys like Manny Machado, they have not been what we've expected of those guys over the years. Jake Cronenworth is sitting below his sort of expectations. Hae-Sung Kim is another guy not really delivering with the bat, although he's been really good with the glove this season. Fernando Tatis Jr., they're kind of waiting for him to kind of get back to who he was. Matt Carpenter not having fun hitting in Petco Park, which is a lot different than hitting in New Yankee Stadium, which is, a little league field, which he kind of took advantage of last season. I wonder just how good this Padres team can be this season. A ton of pressure on them to get to a World Series, to improve upon last year's NLCS trip. So I wonder if that's kind of weighing on them right now. I hope for the excitement of baseball that they are in the thick of things coming up this summer. But right now they have gotten off to a slower start than I think anticipated.
Yeah, with the San Diego Padres, if you take out of the mix the fact that they had those 2 games in Mexico City, they entered into Wednesday hitting at .223 as a collective and averaging about 3.8 runs per contest, which the only team averaging fewer in the National League entering into Wednesday was the Washington Nationals. So not so great there. Not everyone could be like the great Curtis Rogers, who does amazing work over at 710 Seattle Sports. Curtis, I know that your main beat right now is the Seattle Mariners pre- and post-game work, but you have a handle a little bit of everything that goes on in the Seattle sports landscape. So let the good people at home know what's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, we have got plenty of Mariners coverage going on here at Seattle Sports. My latest edition of the Extra Innings podcast releases on Thursday. Daniela Brusa of DetroitTigers.com will join me as we talk some Tigers baseball along with the Mariners, and then plenty of Mariners coverage, pre- and post-game shows all weekend long, and there's just something for everybody this time of year. Kraken are just going nuts in the playoffs right now. They're locked in their series with the Dallas Stars. So all sorts of reaction to that and all sorts of coverage. And SeattleSports.com is where you want to go for all that. And then, as Greg said, add a kid from Kent on Twitter and Instagram.
And Curtis does an absolutely incredible job taking a look at so many different things. It is a very lively landscape out there in Seattle right now, especially with, as we mentioned, the Kraken being in the postseason. So no shortage of fun there. And every single time Curtis joins this podcast, he lends great insights, much like he did today. So big thanks, Curtis, for joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. And coming up next, it is that time of the podcast. They give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this MLB Thursday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN family podcast. Always great to get Curtis Rogers aboard. He does great work over at 710 Seattle Sports, doing the pre- and post-game shows for the Seattle Mariners. Every single time he joins this podcast, always does a great job with his insights, and should be a very interesting season for the Seattle Mariners. Has been a little bit topsy-turvy for them, and really all these teams in the American League West. So no shortage of excitement there, and no shortage of great insights from our good friend Curtis in the last segment. Big thanks to him for joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this MLB Thursday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter feed at GNet_D1. Gonna be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, and our lone intra-league game. That is going to be at the bottom. That is going to be keeping things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So without further ado, let's dive in on this first game that is Currently off the board, by the way, 951, 952 on the betting board. It is the New York Mets on the road facing off against the Cincinnati Reds. Yes, Bill Belichick, we are on to Cincinnati, who's on to be determined getting the start for them. Meanwhile, it's going to be Kodai Senga, who's going to be going for the New York Mets. It's sounding like Ben Lively. Yes, Ben Lively, no relation to Blake Lively, going to be getting the start for the Reds, and if it is Mr. Lively against Kodai Senga, well, I don't think the Reds are going to be so lively on the money line. I said the Mets minus 168 would be willing to lay a minus 112 on the run line with a total of 9.8, where a 9.5 or less, I'd be taking a look at the over, and a 10 or higher, I'd be taking a look at the under. For Ben Lively, I believe that he spent a little bit of time out there in the KBO that might have been of relation to Mr. Lively, but if I remember correctly, during that pandemic year, he was with the Samsung Lions, and he didn't necessarily pitch that well. He's been doing a solid job with the Louisville Bats this season. He's went 4-0 with a 2.33 ERA, but at the minor league level, he's got 3.3 walks per 9 innings with 5.3 strikeouts per 9 innings. If he's trying to get by in the MLB level with 5.3 strikeouts per 9 innings while giving up over 3 walks per 9 innings, I really do salute him because I think that he is going to get hammered. Meanwhile, Kodai Senga, he's been able to do a relatively solid job this far in his recent last 2 starts, a combined 11 innings, giving up 2 runs. Now, those last 2 starts came at home against the Washington Nationals and the Colorado Rockies, and he has faced off against, let's call it what it is, some rather poor competition, but he is going up against the Cincinnati Reds lineup that they've been able to average a little bit over 5 runs per game at home thus far this season, but this is a very light inning team. They entered into the game on Wednesday with just one player with more than 3 home runs. That'd be Spencer Steer, who's been able to go deep 4 times thus far this season. Now, for the Cincinnati Reds, you do have guys that are able to move the line. Jonathan India is hitting a little bit over 300 along TJ Friedel, Nick Senzel, Tyler Stevenson, Steer, I mentioned, Henry Ramos. A lot of guys in between about a 250 to a 265, but you don't have a lot of power with this lineup. Now, what I do like about the Cincinnati Reds is that the bullpen has been relatively decent. Alexis Diaz, since being part of the last season, has had right around a 2-ish ERA. You've been able to have some of these guys like a Buck Farmer, Ian Gabo, guys that just throughout his career have not necessarily been too amazing. They've been able to step up thus far this season. When you get into some of the longer guys, it is a little bit more of a roll of the dice. But with that said, they go up against the New York Mets team that they entered into Wednesday 20th in terms of bullpen ERA, as they've been having to trust in guys like Tommy Hunter, Dominic Leone, Jeff Brigham and company, David Robertson is someone I do certainly like. And for the New York Mets, the team has been relatively light hitting thus far this season, entered into Wednesday hitting just a 236 as a collective, but this really feels like a good get-right spot. Jeff McNeil, along with Brandon Nimmo, both have been able to give you north of a 375 on base. Along Daniel Vogelbach, the batting average has not necessarily been there, but these guys have been able to do a solid job of being able to draw walks. Pete Alonso, 12 home runs thus far this season, though. He's only been able to slug out 2 home runs in the last 19 days going into yesterday, so that's been a little bit of a sticky situation for him, but I do think that he is going to be able to pick it up a little bit more on that front. And then you've got a lot of guys that they just haven't been able to find it that I do think are going to be better as the season goes along, as Tommy Pham, Sterling Marte, Francisco Lindor, Eduardo Escobar. All these guys entered into Wednesday hitting a 225 or lower. So I do think that we're going to see some positive progression there as long as you get Mr. Lively out there. And I mean, if you get a bullpen game as well, it's going to be relatively similar. But I did set the Mets in this situation minus 168 on the money line. We'll be willing to lay up to a minus 112 on the run line. And then when it comes to the total 9.5 or less, looking at the over 10 or higher to the under 953, 954 on the betting board. The San Francisco Giants are on the road facing off against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Tommy Henry goes for the Snakes, and Alex Cobb is going for San Francisco. 9 is the total. The over is minus 115. The under is minus 105 with San Francisco. They're anywhere between minus 130 to minus 135 favorites. In between plus 115 and plus 120 is your number on the Arizona Diamondbacks. And with the Snakes, I was willing to take anything of a plus 117 or greater. Alex Cobb has been solid the last few seasons for the San Francisco Giants, but he does have some relatively demonstrative home and road splits. Last season, he was able to perform very well when he was at home. Meanwhile, on the road, he had a 5.20 ERA, and over the last 2 seasons, his ERA is north of a 4.50 when he does leave home. Now, if you take a look at some of the advanced stats, fielding independent, what have you, you'll see that he has been quite unlucky on balls in play. But the one thing with the Arizona Diamondbacks is they've really been able to do a solid job of being able to get on base when they've been at home. They haven't necessarily had a lot of thumping, though. Christian Walker entering into yesterday, in the last 15 days, he has been able to do an incredible job of providing power. 6 home runs, hitting about a 350 over the last 15 days, so he has really been able to pick it up. But at home, going into yesterday, the Arizona Diamondbacks hitting at 292 as a collective. That is the top mark in the National League. It's not necessarily come with a lot of power. 19 home runs in their first 19 games of the season at home, and that's very reminiscent of what we saw last season, but got a lot of guys that have been able to do a nice job reaching base. Gabriel Moreno, Lourdes Gurriel, both of these guys hitting right around 300. You've had Geraldo Perdomo this year between home and road games hitting at 373. I don't think that that's going to be long-lasting. Emmanuel Rivera has been hitting above a 350 as well. So you've had some guys that there's got to be some regression with. And for the San Francisco Giants, what has been truly putrid for this team has been the bullpen. They are dead last in the National League in terms of bullpen ERA, though I will say for the Arizona Diamondbacks, they're in the bottom 8 in terms of bullpen ERA as well. I think there's going to be some positive progression with this. Scott Alexander had a sub-3 ERA last season, and he's been posting up north of a 5 this year. Camilo Doval has been solid in the San Francisco Giants bullpen, but really past that, Rogers Squared has been not necessarily so great. Cole Waitis is 9 ERA. It's bad, and I do think he's going to be able to pitch a little bit better than that. And then for the Arizona Diamondbacks, Andrew Chafin, Miguel Castro, both of these guys were picked up in the offseason, and both have been a little bit hit or miss. Both of these guys posting up north of a 3.3 ERA, but Joe Mantiply has been solid. Kyle Nelson is someone I do like. You just need to avoid some of these guys like Kevin Ginkel and company. And for the San Francisco Giants, it's very much an all-or-nothing lineup. They've been able to supply right around 2.1 home runs per game when they have been away from home, but they're not necessarily hitting for the world's greatest average. Hitting at 243 as a collective, which it's not great, it's not terrible. Thairo Estrada has been amazing at being able to move the line. J.D. Davis is hitting about a 280 as well. Thairo Estrada, by the way, hitting a 338 thus far this season, but for the Giants, it's all about platoon splits and just finding those right matchups in general, because when it comes to the San Francisco Giants, I firmly believe that you're not going to have a guy that hits for north of 30 home runs this season, but you're going to have like 8 different guys that hit about 20, and it's indicative of that right now. You've got 7 different guys with at least 5 home runs. Meanwhile, J.D. Davis, Lamonte Wade Jr., they both have been able to pound out 7. A little bit of an all-or-nothing offense here, and I do think for Tommy Henry, he is going to be able to rein it in a little bit more. He's been able to do an okay job this season of keeping the ball in the yard. 1 home run given up in 15 2/3 innings. Was a little bit wobbly when he had his road start against the Colorado Rockies, but take that one out of the fold. He's given up 5 runs over the course of 10 1/3 innings against the Royals and the Washington Nationals at home. I'm expecting a little bit more of this. Strikeout stuff has not necessarily been there. 7 punch-outs in 15 2/3 innings, but I do think that he's going to be able to keep the ball in the yard here, which will help out with the under. I do think that it's sort of going to be a death by a million cuts circumstance with the Arizona Diamondbacks. So I did set the Diamondbacks as a plus 116 underdog. Willing to take the plus 120 that I'm seeing here. So I'm going to total at an 8.8. So seeing the 9, I'm going to be taking a look at that under as well. 955, 956 on the betting board. The Kansas City Royals playoffs to the Chicago White Sox. Mike Clevenger goes for the Southsiders, and Brady Singer is on the bum for Kansas City. The Royals are between minus 107 to minus 115 favorites, setting between even money and minus 107 is your number on the White Sox. 9.5 to 10 is your total on the 9.5. The over is between minus 115 to a minus 120. The under is setting between even and minus 105 on the 10. The under is minus 115, and the over, it is minus 105. Did set my total at a 9.2. I'm going to be taking a look at the under. You got a pair of guys that have really struggled on the mound this season. Brady Singer, after last year, he was so good. The Royals went 12-4 in his last 16 starts of the season last year. They have went just 1-4 in his last 5 starts after a relatively good start to the year, as he has allowed 5+ runs in 4 out of his last 5 starts. Good news is now he's going up against a Chicago White Sox team that, let's call it what it is, they don't necessarily have a lot of pop, though I will say, for the Chicago White Sox, you do have quite a few guys that have been able to do a decent job of moving the line. Now, the White Sox are not hitting lefties the same way that they have in the past, but fortunately that is not going to apply in this circumstance. But right now you've got Gavin Sheets, Eloy Jimenez, Yasmani Grandal, Luis Robert, Andrew Benintendi, Tim Anderson, all in between about a 255 to a 265. You haven't necessarily been able to get a lot of thumping out of these guys. Jake Berger, Luis Robert, both between 7 and 8 home run speeds. Past that, nobody else has really been able to give you north of 4, but it does feel like reinforcements are on the way. There's they're still dealing with being without Yohan Moncada, but by and large, things are looking a little bit better for them, especially with Adam Hazley being able to step up in the outfield. Now, for both of these teams, they rank at the bottom 5 in terms of bullpen ERA, and for the Chicago White Sox, at this point, other than Gregory Santos and Keenan Middleton, they don't have a single guy you can rely upon. Reynaldo Lopez, Kendall Graveman, Aaron Bummer, Jimmy Lambert, all these guys north of a 4.50 ERA, and Joe Kelly just should not be in the league. Meanwhile, for the Royals, Scott Barlow has been a hot mess this season. Taylor Clark has been bad. Jose Cuas has north of a 5 ERA. Josh Shamon has actually been halfway decent, but the other Josh Taylor, stopping great role as Chapman, has been able to give you some relatively rock-solid innings, but it's been a little bit disastrous there. And then for Mike Clevenger, he just seems to rein it in terms of command. A little bit north of 4 walks per 9 innings. He has allowed at least 3+ runs, and now 3 out of his last 4 starts, but I have been noticing that the strikeout numbers, they're starting to get back to where they were in past years. He's been able to give the team about 8.5 punch-outs per 9 innings, which is very nice to see, and he's worked on the walks. Now he's given out 1 walk or fewer in 3 out of his last 4 starts. That is encouraging, and he's going up against the Royals, seeing that they just haven't had a lot of thumping in general themselves. You've had Bobby Witt Jr., Vinny Pasquantino, Salvador Perez. I'll give you between 6 and 7 home runs apiece going into yesterday, and I believe that the rest of the team, outside of these 3 guys, had a combined 14 home runs overall for the season, and here's really the big issue for the Kansas City Royals. The entire bottom of the lineup can't hit. MJ Melendez, Franmil Reyes, Jackie Bradley Jr., Kyle Isabel, Mike Massey, Nate Eaton, Hunter Dozier, all entered into yesterday hitting at 215 or lower. Pasquantino has been able to hit at 285, and Salvador Perez, over the last 3 weeks, is hitting north of a 325. He has been absolutely incredible with that regard. Been able to get a little bit of something as well out of Freddie Furman, but that said, it's a light-hitting Royals team. You got a pair of pitchers that have really been struggling, but you've got a pair of offenses that have really been struggling as well, so it's a good old situation of something's got to give. I do think that Brady Singer might be able to tap into what he was able to do a little bit more last season. I set him as a -107 favorite. At current numbers of -107 that I'm seeing with the Royals, that is the absolute max I'm willing to lay, but I'd be willing to lay that number with the Kansas City Royals. That said, I'm going to be in a little bit of wait-and-see mode, see what I can get in terms of perhaps a plus price with the White Sox, and or see if this becomes a little bit more of a pick'em game, but at current numbers, we'd be willing to lay that -107, and so I total at 9.2, so at a 9.5/10, looking at the under as well, 957, 958 on the betting board. The Tampa Bay Rays at the road face-off against the New York Yankees. Domingo Germán is going for the Yankees, and Drew Rasmussen is on the bump for the Tampa Bay Rays. Rays are -125 favorites, between +105 and +112 is your number on the Yankees, 8.5 is the total, over and under both at -110, and set the Rays at a -137. I'm going to be willing to lay it with them. The Tampa Bay Rays, other than really when I took them with my DK Nation right at pick on Tuesday, they've been able to do an amazing job all season long. The Tampa Bay Rays lead the league in terms of ERA. They lead the league in terms of total home runs. It has been the complete package for this team, as you've got Yandy Diaz, Randy Arozarena, Wander Franco. Between the 3 of them thus far this season, entering into yesterday, 25 home runs, all hitting at least a 310. You've got Harold Ramirez, Josh Lowe, also hitting above a 310. I mean, my goodness, this lineup has been absolutely locked and loaded. It's really hard to find someone hitting below a 250. Brandon Lau has been rough with regards to batting average, and so is Christian Bethancourt, but that's that. All these guys are delivering on that front, and for the Tampa Bay Rays, top 3 team in terms of bullpen ERA as well. Jason Adams has been able to do a great job of being able to supply a sub-2 ERA. Heck, Zach Birdie, Chase Anderson, these have been some untapped gems that they've been able to really dig up. They're currently without Garrett Clevenger, as they've had to mix and match a little bit with the bullpen, but I mean, that said, the Royals have been able to do an incredible job there. Meanwhile, for the New York Yankees, currently the number 1 team in the big leagues in terms of their bullpen ERA. It's been a little bit rough with Clay Holmes having his ups and downs, but I mean, you take a look at all these guys like Albert Abreu Jr., Ron Metanacchio, Michael King, Ian Hamilton, Wandy Peralta, all supplying a sub-3 ERA. Jimmy Cordero has been a little bit hot and cold, but he's got right around a 3.14 ERA as well, so these guys have done their part. The problem for the Yankees, and the bigger reason why they're one of the top teams to the under in all of baseball, has been the lack of consistency in the lineup, as you've got Anthony Rizzo hitting about a 300. He's been able to supply 6 home runs, and no doubt about it, part of the reason why they were playing some unders the last few weeks was having Aaron Judge out, getting him back, even if he's not quite at 100%. That's a big upgrade for this team, and Yankees have been able to hit a few overs the last few days. Very simple as to why they were able to. They were playing against the Oakland A's, who might have the worst pitching staff I've ever seen in my life, but even with having just gone through a series against the Oakland A's, you've still got all these guys who are struggling at the plate as Anthony Volpe, along with the much maligned Aaron Hicks, Jake Bowers, Oswaldo Peraza, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, Oswaldo Cabrera, Kyle Higashioka, Jose Trevino, all these guys a 218 or lower. When he's been up at the big league level, Franchi Cordero's hit a $151, though I know that he's been going up and down between the majors and the minors, but both of these teams, they've got very good bullpens. With Domingo Germán, I think that he's going to be able to give a relatively good start here, and I do think that there is going to be some regression with the Tampa Bay Rays lineup. Keep in mind that they were 25th in the league in terms of home runs last season. I don't think they're going to be able to keep up quite this sort of a pace, and for Germán, he has given up a combined 3 earned runs in his last 13 and a third innings. That was starts against the Cleveland Guardians, and then he was on the road facing off against the Tampa Bay Rays, and he's done a good job with his command. He's been giving up right around about 2.6 walks per 9 innings. His strikeouts per 9 rate is back to right around 10, so I think that there should be a good start to be had there, and for Drew Rasmussen, by and large, he's been able to do a solid job. He did have a pair of rough outings against the Astros and the Toronto Blue Jays, and obviously it was with Aaron Judge out of the fold, but last time he faced off against the New York Yankees, which is his most recent start, by the way, he was able to go 5 2/3 innings scoreless. For Rasmussen thus far this season, right around about 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, about 2.5 walks per 9 innings. So I do think that both of these pitchers going to be able to go out, have a relatively solid performance. That might tell it at 8.2, even though it is the Yankee Stadium. I'm willing to take the 8.5 under, but with the Rays, set them at a -137. Going to be willing to ride with them on the money line. 959, 960 on the betting board. It is the Oakland A's, and they play host to the Walker, Texas Rangers. It was looking like it was going to be Ken Waldichuk going for the Oakland A's. As of right now, it is good old TBD, and he's going to be going up against Nathan Eovaldi for the Rangers. At this point, I think that TBD might actually be an upgrade to Ken Waldichuk, because when it was supposed to be Waldichuk versus Eovaldi, I set the Rangers at a -224 on the money line. I was willing to go up to a -135 on the run line. This is going to be largely the same. I mean, this actually can go up a little bit, because if it's an Oakland A's bullpen game, oh, good grief, what are we going to be able to expect there? But, the Oakland A's are just running out of arms at this point. Could we see a return to the rotation for Shintaro Fujinami? Who knows, because he hasn't thrown since Sunday, but good grief. I don't think I'm going to be moving my numbers too much off of what I was expecting when it was supposed to be Waldichuk, but for the Oakland A's, they've got north of a 7 ERA as a collective. The bullpen stinks. The starting rotation has stunk. You just have absolutely nothing whatsoever with this poor 8-30 team, and of course, they're coming out here to lovely Las Vegas, tearing up the Tropicana, so that's going to be very nice. The Oakland A's, they've been able to provide a little bit of offense, but all that offense has come on the road. If you take a look at what they've done on the road thus far this season, it's honestly not been bad. Hitting about a 250, they've been able to supply about 1.3-ish home runs per game, and then they return home because it's about as pitcher-friendly of a ballpark as it gets, and they're down to about 0.8 home runs per game, hitting at 213 as a collective. You've had Esterio Ruiz do a very solid job. I believe that he leads the league in stolen bases, hitting at 265, so that's been nice for the team. Brent Rooker has been solid, being able to hit a 317 with 10 home runs, but past that, you haven't been able to get much of anything out of this team in terms of their pitching, in terms of their hitting, and they go up against Nathan Eovaldi, who does give up some contact. You take a look at him since the beginning part of the 2014 season, opponents hit about a 260 off of him, but he has been amazing down the stretch. He's given up a combined 5 earned runs over the course of his last 4 games, and his last 2 starts came against the LA Angels and the New York Yankees, a combined no runs surrendered in 17 innings with 2 walks and 13 punch-outs. He is in a very good peak form. It's a Texas Rangers bullpen that has been a little bit all over the place. They're right around league average in terms of their bullpen ERA, as you've been able to have a trio of guys in Jose Leclerc, Brock Burke, along with John Hernandez, all guys that had a sub-3 ERA last season, do a solid job. When you get into guys like Uri Rodriguez and company, it gets a little bit more dicey, but the Rangers should be able to dicey on up this Oakland A's pitching staff that just in general has been absolutely terrible, and they're doing this all without Corey Seager, by the way. They're right now leading the league in terms of runs per game as Marcus Semien, Leody Taveras, Travis Janikowski, Jonah Heim, Ezekiel Duran, all hitting at least at 290. You've had Adolis Garcia, Josh Young combined for 17 home runs. They're hitting lefties well. They're hitting righties well. They've got a locked and loaded lineup. This to me just should be complete domination regardless of who the Oakland A's are out there. I mean, like I said, with Waldichuk versus Eovaldi, I made the Rangers minus 135 on the run line, minus 224 on the money line. I think I'm going to be sticking relatively close to that number, and I made the total an 8.6, where an 8.5 or less, looking at the over 9 or higher to the under, and I think once again, if you get some sort of like a bullpen game with the A's, probably going to be sticking with that number as well. And then we wrap things up with my DK Nation right-up pick, 961, 962 on the betting board. It is the San Diego Padres on the road against the Minnesota Twins. Bailey Ober goes for the Twins, and Yu Darvish goes for the Padres. Total on this game is 8.5. Unders between minus 115 to a minus 120. The overs between even to minus 105. Padres are between minus 108 to minus 120 favorites, and between even money and plus 105 is your number on Minnesota. And I did set the Padres at a minus 123 on the money line, but right up pick here is going to be on the under. As a matter of fact, if you go down to an 8, I would still be willing to take this under, as semi-total is 7.7. You got a San Diego Padres team that, when you take out of the fold the fact that they had those 2 games in Mexico City, this team has really not been able to give you anything whatsoever on offense, as excluding those Mexico City games, the San Diego Padres entered into Wednesday night averaging 3.8 runs per game with a batting average of a 225, both of which dead last in the National League. Meanwhile, the Minnesota Twins entered into Wednesday night hitting at 219 as a collective, dead last in the big leagues, with 4 runs or fewer scored in 6 out of their first 7 games in the month of May. Twins have actually picked it up with their bullpen. They're up to 11th in terms of bullpen ERA. They get Ode Alcala back in the fold, Ode Lopez, Yohan Duran. These guys have been relatively solid. You want to be absolutely avoiding Emilio Pagan at all costs, and Giovanni Morin has not necessarily been himself this year, 5.52 ERA, but provided 2.21 ERA last season. I think that he's going to be able to pick it up, and for the San Diego Padres, they've been in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA as well, but feels like they're starting to get back on the correct track. Josh Hader has been terrific for this team. Tim Hill has been able to supply a sub-3 ERA. Steven Wilson has been a little bit up and down, but Luis Garcia, after a disastrous start to the season, he seems to be finding it. But you should take a look at the San Diego Padres. We talked about them briefly with our good friend Curtis Rogerson. Got a lot of guys that are just underachieving going into yesterday. Matt Carpenter, Trent Grisham, both hitting in that pocket about a 225. Austin Nola has been a disaster up at the plate. Juan Soto is now hitting at 254, whoop-de-doo, but you don't have a single guy that's really giving you north of 6 home runs thus far this season. And for the Minnesota Twins, Byron Buxton is starting to pick it up with the power numbers, 8 home runs going into yesterday, but hitting just a 233, and you just have nobody that is consistently moving the line for the Minnesota Twins. Among players that have gotten at least 50 at-bats thus far this season, you've had 3 guys hit above a 233. Not so great, and one of those guys is Ode Polanco, has been able to do a solid job since getting back in the fold, but you just take a look at all these guys like Jose Miranda, Carlos Correa, whenever he's been out there, Joey Gallo, because he has been injured, Kyle Garlick. You're able to go down the line of guys hitting at 220 or lower. You've got Trevor Larnach at a 221. This team does draw a few walks, but it's not like they've necessarily been doing an amazing job in terms of their power numbers as well since a hot start to the season. Joey Gallo has cooled off whenever he's been out there. And then for both of these pitchers, they've been rock solid. For Yu Darvish, all 3 of his home runs allowed this season came in Mexico City, and for Yu Darvish, he's been able to do a very good job giving up 3 earned runs in his last 3 starts that were not in Mexico City, coming against the Brewers, the LA Dodgers, and on the road against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Has always had his issues when he has been on the road. Since going to San Diego, he does have a ERA on the road that's about a 1.5 higher than it is at home, but this is a very pitcher-friendly ballpark. Meanwhile, for Bailey Ober, he's made 3 starts thus far this season, and he's given up 2 runs. He has been absolutely sensational. 6 walks in 18 and a third innings, 16 punch-outs. Has always done a relatively solid job to be able to keep the walks down. Biggest thing for him has always been hard contact, and seems like he's been able to shore that up quite a bit, and going up against the San Diego Padres, that should be able to help them out. Darvish and Over in the last 35 days, they have played 1 out of the 8 games that they have started over the total. I do think that the trend of unders between these 2 gentlemen, it is going to be continuing. My DK Nation right-up pick, that is going to be on this total under. And when it comes to Padres, I'm willing to lay up to a minus 122 with them, and that'll wrap things up for the Thursday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN family podcast. Big thanks to Curtis Rogers over at 710 Seattle Sports for joining me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of 2 ways we all fire those in. First one is my Twitter timeline at Janet_81. Keep in mind letters EM. Naming does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline and the other ways find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you are able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Coming at you guys every single day throughout the baseball season, and that means I'm coming at you once again tomorrow. Thank you so much for tuning in.